Hello and welcome to another edition of BrightGauge's User Showcase webinars. This is our monthly series highlighting all of the great work done by our partners. Today, we will be showcasing how you can incorporate goal setting into your teams to drive accountability. And we will be chatting with Daniel Gilbert of Kite Technology Group. I'm Ashley Nicely, a member of the Partner Success team and your host today. Feel free to reach out throughout the webinar with any questions you may have. I'll do my best to answer them through the chat, or I will interject to ask our speaker directly. We'll also make time in the end for further Q&A. I'd like to take a moment to personally welcome our speaker, Daniel Gilbert, the Chief Operating Officer at Kite Technology Group. I do have him on mute at the moment, but he'll be introducing himself in a few minutes. I just want to say thank you for joining us today, Daniel. We are so grateful to have you. To cover what we have plans today, I'd like to start with a little review of what's new with BrightGauge. Then I'll pass things over to Daniel for a more formal introduction from him. Next, Daniel will review the sales and service team dashboards used at Kite Technology Group. After that, Daniel will jump into goal setting, their goal setting process, and how that translates onto their BrightGauge goal lists. Then Daniel will walk us through the quarterly IT business review report that he shares with clients, or they share, I should say. Lastly, as mentioned earlier, we will save some room in the end for further Q&A. Now, before we jump in, I want to mention some of the visuals you'll see here today have dummy data on them. Daniel was gracious enough to share the dashboards, goal lists, and reports that Kite Technology Group uses every day, but we still wanted to provide some privacy on the actual numbers there. All right, let's get to it. So what's new with BrightGauge? No big changes since last month's webinar for those who tuned in, but I did want to talk about two things. So the first is IT Nation Connect. That's happening next week, November 10th through the 12th. This will be an in-person event in Orlando, Florida, and also virtual. So you have the opportunity to do whichever you're most comfortable with. If you haven't registered, but you're still interested in going, we do have a code here, Cyber50, and that'll get you $50 off your event pass. So IT Nation Connect is going to be a great opportunity to network with your peers, to learn about the tools that you're using every day. And a little bonus, you will get to meet the BrightGauge team. We will be there live, and I will be there as well. So, if you are going, please stop by and say hello. I'd love to meet you all. Okay, and secondly, I'd like to share our latest partner shared template. As many of you know, we have an ongoing dashboard or report on the page. And on this page, we're sharing templates of what other partners have created in their BrightGauge account. We also create dashboards and report templates highlighting what's shared in our user showcase webinars like this one. So last month, we released a dashboard that's meant for professional services or project management. And that's the template that you see flowing on your screen now. So this dashboard was brought to you by Craig Haworth. He's the Director of Professional Services at Nwago, which is a South Australian-based TSP. And if you check out the blog link provided on our templates page, you can get a lot of good information from Craig himself on these metrics that he shared with us. So again, if you're looking for a little KPI inspiration, I highly recommend you checking out this page. We do add on to it monthly. You can bookmark it or check in periodically, subscribe to the blog, lots of ways that you can get notified about the new templates coming up. That said, we would love to hear your feedback on the dashboards and metrics from today's presentation that you'd like to see made into a shareable template. So make sure to send us your feedback. I guess to mention there, that is success@brightgauge.com. So if you'd like to discuss any of these items, go over the dashboard of the month, any questions, feedback, all of that fun stuff, reach out to our team directly at success@brightgauge.com. And Wayne, I will pop the link into the chat momentarily on where you can get to this templates page. Okay, one last mention. Today's webinar recording will be shared with you via email within the next few business days. We will also upload it to our webinars page. So you can find all of our past user showcase webinars, our mastering bright gauge webinars, all of that fun stuff at brightgauge.com/webinars. So it's at this point that I'm going to ask Daniel to take over and introduce himself, to come off of mute, and then he'll talk about all of the ways that they're utilizing bright gauge at Kite Technology.
Thanks, Ashley. Looks like I am just gonna try and share my screen real quick. Let me just make sure that you're able to see the screen now.
Yes.
Awesome. All right. Well, before we go on, I'll just introduce myself and a bit about the company. So the company that I work for is Kite Technology Group. We've been in business about 30 years. I've been with the company for about 10 of those years. And we have grown a lot over those 30 years. Obviously, we started doing a lot of break fix work, and that was before I was with the company. Over the years, we really shifted to doing fully managed services, and today that's what we are. We're a fully managed services shop. We also do a bit of consulting work. We do some technical consulting, and we also do some business consulting for independent insurance agencies, which makes up the primary market of our client base. So that's the vertical we work in. About 60% probably of our managed services is independent insurance agencies. I've been with the company, like I said, 10 years. I started in 2012, and I started as an intern. So over the past 10 years, I've grown a lot and worked in a lot of different roles. I've probably worked in every single technical role that we have, as well as the technical leads I've worked on. And so today I'm the chief operating officer. And just a little bit too about the technical stack that our company uses. We use Bright Gauge, and we integrate a number of our tools with Bright Gauge. We use Manage, Automate, and Sell by ConnectWise. And we also use Smileback for our customer satisfaction feedback. And we use QuickBooks for financial data. And so all 5 of those tools we have integrated with QuickBooks with Bright Gauge. And that allows us to show all kinds of different data. So I'll go ahead and move on now to show some of the items that we have here. So we're starting with service dashboards. So there's a few dashboards that I'll go through that our team uses every day that help us do our jobs. The first one here is the dispatch dashboard. So our dispatcher uses this. And as you can see, there are some number gauges over on the left that show different things. It's hard to see the words on this screen, but there are things here like unassigned tickets, high priority tickets that are not have not yet been worked on, and most of these gauges would be managed to zero. Actually, in fact, I think all of these gauges are managed to zero gauges, which means that they show something that you want to drive down. So we don't want any unassigned tickets. We want them all to be assigned. We don't want any past due tickets. So if this dashboard has all zeros, that means we're in good shape. Over on the right, the dispatcher also has the ability to see the workload for each one of our technicians. Obviously, the names are blurred out at the bottom, but each one of those bars represents the number of tickets that a given technician has assigned. So that helps him make decisions about who to assign the next ticket to. And then down below, it's empty at the moment in this screenshot because we didn't have any site visits scheduled, but this shows where we're planning to go on site to our clients, that to help the dispatcher to be able to plan other site visits or to plan to make sure that the team has adequate coverage while we have a technician off the desk.
And one question, Daniel, what's the map link for?
Yeah. So the map link is actually a tool built by our director of managed services. And what that does is it shows a map, an interactive map of where all of our technicians live. So it's useful to be right on the dashboard where our dispatcher can click that link and pull up a map so that if we need to do a site visit, he can see what technicians are nearby, and that kind of helps him make decisions on who's the best one to go there. Thanks for asking that, Ashley. It's a good highlight. So I'll move on. This one is our help desk status board. So this one is more widely used by our technicians and our team leads, especially. We've kind of had different evolutions of what this dashboard looks like, but we've always had a dashboard like this that is kind of the central hub for information on how our help desk is doing on any given day. So just like on the other dashboard, the gauge in the top, there's one manage to zero gauge in the top left that just makes sure that we are looking at high priority tickets. The green 16 and the green 8 over here on the left and right show the number of actionable tickets sitting in our queue. That's a really good way for us to look at those numbers quickly. And if they're high, we know we have to do a little bit of work to catch up, and we have a backlog. If they're low, that means that we are all caught up and in good shape. Then I'll jump over to the colorful charts on the left and right. Our help desk team is split into two different teams, and so the left is showing the tier 1 team, the right is showing the escalation team. And what you can see there are the number of tickets they've worked, the number of tickets they've resolved, and the total number of billable hours that they have. And we think those three numbers together really represent a good idea of how well they're doing on and how well the team is doing as a whole on any given day. So those charts are identical, just two different teams showing. Then I'll go on the inside. The same gauge that we saw on the previous slide is here that shows actionable tickets by tech. Just a good thing for everyone to have an idea of. Then right beside that is our customer feedback gauge, which I'll go into a lot more detail on the next slide. But really, we think it's good to have our customer feedback, which is mostly positive. That's also a good thing. But it's good to put that right in front of everyone to be able to see, because it is a confidence boost, when somebody says something nice about you, and it's good for other team members to see what their teammates are, what the kind of work that they're doing and the kind of feedback that they're getting. Down below, we have two numbers, the number of tickets that were open today and the number of tickets that were resolved. That can obviously give us an idea of how much of or how little of a backlog we are building. So if we open way more tickets than we're resolving, we're probably going to be in the hole for a little while the next day. And then in between, we have kind of extended hours. We call our late shift. And it's one of the techs, a different tech works it every day. So this is a text gauge that we type in, and it just is designed to show so that for everyone's knowledge who's working the late shift. And the same with the bottom left is a text gauge that we kind of have the ability to show company headlines here. So the one that's here in the picture is the lunch and learn. We didn't have one scheduled when this screenshot was taken, but we do lunch and learns quarterly, and this is a good way for us to inform everyone when they're when they're scheduled for. And then I'll jump up to the top now. This I saved the best for last because this is my absolute favorite part of probably any of our dashboards is uh, the core values ticker. So this we have a set of core values that we call our flight plan, and we change this gauge every week to celebrate one of our flight plan principles. So the week that this screenshot was taken was number 12, lean into client issues. And that's just one of many that we cycle through. And we think it's really important to find as many ways as possible to put our core values in front of all the people at our company. So that's another manual text gauge that we edit every week.
So, Daniel, I do have two questions that I'd like to ask you really quickly. One of them is going back to the map that you created. And I'm not sure if you'll know this, but of course, we can follow up an email. Do you also show or can you show the customers with open tickets and where those are on that map?
So yeah, that's a really good question. I don't think I know the answer to that. Um, I think in most of the cases that is used, there's one particular site visit we're trying to schedule, so we can look at the map and it's relatively easy. I do see the value in being able to show your customers on that map too. I don't know though if they show there. I think they probably do because our director of managed services was really this was a really good, he worked hard on that. So I think that they probably do. That's a really great idea and it's a good point.
And then the second question, and this is probably because this customer feedback gauge looks so good, but someone would like to know if you also share the negative feedback that you get.
Yeah, I almost wish that there was one up there for this screenshot, but there's not. But yes, we do. The answer is yes, and we actually um, we don't really filter our our feedback gauges. I mean, I kind of think that's important for transparency. If we have critical feedback, I think that's every bit as important as showing positive feedback. It's just good that we get a lot more positive feedback than negative. So, so any more questions before I move on, Ashley?
We are good to go.
Awesome. All right. Next is I'm sorry. Next is the SLA dashboard. Yeah. So this shows there's kind of a matrix view going on here. So I'll try and explain what you see. The subject here is SLA. So this dashboard is kind of our I call it the scoreboard. It's kind of our results. So you can look at this dashboard at the end of a long day and see how what were the fruits of our labor for today when it comes to SLAs, how quickly we're working on and resolving customer issues. So I think I had soccer in mind when I designed this, but I guess you could use lacrosse or hockey or whatever, any sport that has a goal. And the idea is that over in the right in the goal means these are tickets where we met the SLA, and the ones over on the left under in play and missed are, well, in play is tickets where you still have a chance to. So this may be a ticket that you haven't started working on yet, or that you haven't resolved yet that is still possible to meet the SLA. The middle column says missed. That's where, the SLA is expired or we're already past when we promised that we would start working on something. But the whole idea here is that you want to get X number of your tickets worked on and solved within a reasonable amount of time. And we can see that in the percentages all the way on the right. So for response on this day, we had 100% of our tickets responded to in time. Uh, the the resolution plan, the next row down, we had 86.2% of our tickets meet the resolution plan, which is when we start working on the issue, and the bottom 72.9% of tickets that met the resolve. Obviously, that means when the issue was resolved. So our goal is 90% in all of these categories on all these SLAs. So the color changes, depending on how close we are to hitting that goal. And next is the Smile report. This is the customer feedback dashboard. We like to be kind of obsessive over our customers' feedback. So I created a dashboard that is just dedicated only to that. It's called the Smile report because it really focuses on what the good feedback that we got. It will still show comments from negative feedback, but you can see at the top right we have the number of smiles, which is just the number of green positive feedback we've gotten over the week, and the total CSAT score for the week. And this resets every week. So the idea is you would every week you get to start over new, and hopefully at the end of the week it's Friday and we're still at 100% CSAT. Down below, it just breaks down the number of positive feedbacks we get by who was the technician who got it. So it's kind of a fun little competitive way for our techs to just make good impacts with our clients and get recognized for that. And then down below, we have days since last neutral and days since last negative reaction, which is really fun to watch these numbers climb. And 91 is the number that was on this screenshot. I don't know offhand what our record is, but it's kind of nice. While the rest of the dashboard resets every week, you can see those numbers climb, and you put enough perfect CSAT scores in a row, and 91 days without a negative feedback is pretty good. Okay, so any questions, Ashley, before I go on to the next section?
Yeah. So one question, do you incentivize at all around the smile reports or those days since, like, if you beat your best, your days since last negative, is there any sort of party or incentivizing in any way?
Yeah, there is we don't do a formal incentive. We do track the CSAT score, and we have a way of celebrating it in our culture. We don't have an incentive, although that's a decent idea, and that would probably be a really fun thing to think of, creative ways how to celebrate that, because it is a big achievement, especially when you're working on a team and it's the team's responsibility to it's not one person's responsibility to see this number grow. It's an effort of the whole team. So I really like that thinking.
And then the next question here is, do you have a feel for what percentage of your customers are responding to your feedback requests?
Yeah, Smileback tells us what our response rate is, and I believe it's a kind of a lot. It's something in the 60 to 75% range, I believe. I don't know the exact number offhand, but it's inside that range.
And then last one here, do you survey every ticket or is it a random selection process?
It's every ticket on our help desk. Every ticket, when it gets resolved, we send the survey immediately when the ticket is resolved. I know that I've heard of companies sending them a day or two after, and we think kind of the shine has worn off by then. So we think that's something to attribute to our high response rate. Good questions. Let's see what we have next. So these are a few of our sales dashboards. The first section had to do just with service. This is going to be sales related. This dashboard is relatively new, and for that reason, it's got some data that looks a little bit ugly. What I mean by that is there's managed to zero gauges up in the top right that are really dark red and have some pretty high numbers in them. But the idea behind this dashboard is our inside sales, meaning our um, opportunities to sell to our clients that already have managed service contracts. We want to be able to quantify the work that's there. So we want to see how many opportunities we have sitting out there, how much work can we expect to come in the next month or 2 or 6, and um, and how much revenue is going to be driven by those opportunities. So I'll actually start in the bottom on this one, in the bottom right. The number's blurred out, but that number will show just in the across the entire set of opportunities that are for our existing clients. That much revenue is attached to those opportunities. So if we want to drive a certain amount of revenue per month, this view can help us make sure that we have enough in the pipeline to be able to meet that. If you look directly to the left of that, the sales funnel, the colorful little cone that's there, shows us what those opportunities, what stages those opportunities are in. So we have a lot in the early stage, and not so many down in the bottom parts of the funnel. But the goal is to move things along from the top of the funnel to the bottom, and then they will, that is what turns them into revenue. I'll jump over to the left side because along with our opportunities, we do manage some tickets on a service board, and that allows us to do things like solutions development. Our techs know how to live and breathe tickets. So whenever there's a sales opportunity, we usually create a ticket to go alongside that. And so we need to make sure that that service board is well managed, just like our help desk board gets managed. So like we've seen a couple of times, you can see over on the bottom left, there is a gauge that shows how many tickets are assigned to each person. Really helps you see who's overloaded. Whoever's got the 45 big red bar there probably needs some help. Above that is another managed to zero gauge that shows unassigned tickets. The idea is you don't want any tickets to be unassigned, just to make sure that everything is getting attention. And then we have some numbers up there too that show the average age of the tickets. So obviously, if that is really high, you probably have some issues. You don't want tickets hanging around too long, because that usually means they're either being ignored or they are just kind of not moving forward for one reason or another. And then next to that is the average days since last update. That one especially, you want to make sure that one's really low, because that tells you no tickets are being ignored. If you can make sure that every ticket gets some kind of update, whether it's a client email or time put in doing solutions development or taking notes or what have you, you want to make sure that your tickets are being updated with high enough frequency, at least once every couple of days. So, like I said, this dashboard we have some work to do, but this dashboard allows us to see what that work is and see our progress as we as we update tickets and work on opportunities.
Daniel, I do have a few questions for you on this dashboard. Are you sharing it with anyone, just yourself or the sales team, or how is that shared across Kite Technology?
Right now, it's just shared with the sales team, but we're pretty transparent in our company as far as these things go. So I don't think we would have anything we would have anything against sharing it with everyone in the company. Most people in other roles kind of just, it's not pertinent to them, but we would be willing to. We just don't. And maybe there'll come a time when we can show that, and at lunch and learns or company wide meetings where we can give everyone a taste of what's going on in other departments.
And then the next question here, how do you manage sales tickets turning into opportunities, if that's relevant?
Yeah, I think I understand the question. That has been a challenge because kind of a good rule of thumb is when there's something to be done, when there's work that needs to be done or something that needs to be sold or whatever it is, you kind of just want one record to show that. So as soon as you open up a ticket that goes along with an opportunity, now you have two records of the same thing, and it can be hard to keep keep that in check. So we do things like we will we will attach the ticket to the opportunity, I believe is the way that works. And um, I think that there probably are still kind of some holes in that process when it comes to managing those two things in parallel. But with really good management measures around by way of these dashboards around making sure that all the tickets are managed and all the opportunities are managed well, we think that those things won't, it's harder for things to fall through the cracks. So there is a bit of a challenge to that. But we think, we can overcome it with these things like this.
And do you currently have an automated process for creating the opportunities from sales tickets, or is it something that each sales rep is kind of manually doing right now, if they come in as a ticket, of course?
Yeah, it's manual today. A lot of, I mean, a lot of the opportunities we create manually because they're not based on requests, they're based on recommendations by us. Some of them do come in um, as tickets because they're client requests. So usually what happens is if our help desk gets a request and something needs to be sold, they will move that ticket over to the sales board where it's then managed by our inside sales team. And one of the members of the sales team will create an opportunity out of it. So that may be worthwhile for me to put on my list for something to automate. That's a good idea. But no, it's manual today. All right. And if there's no more questions, I'll go on to the next slide. It's somewhat similar. This is one of the slides with some dummy data in it. And this is uh, for our outside sales team. So that means they don't already have a managed service contract, and we're trying to pursue them to get to sign new clients. So what we can see here is just like on the last dashboard, there's a gauge that shows the expected revenue that we can expect, and there's some math behind that that involves the probability of the opportunity closing based on the stage that it's in. And what you get as a result is the expected revenue. It's a little different than how much revenue in total is attached to the opportunity because of the probability. But the idea is that you should end up with a number that meets your goal. In our case, it's 90 days. And if that number is high enough to what we expect to close every 90 days, then we're probably in good shape. And if history repeats itself, we should be able to expect that we're going to get enough revenue, enough new revenue. On the bottom left, you can't have a good dashboard without some managed to zero gauges. So we have two down there that show past due opportunities and opportunities that are missing revenue, because that will throw the numbers off. Down below is the number of opportunities assigned by sales rep, kind of like the ticket load for technicians. but it's just opportunities instead to kind of keep the loads even, or to show um, how many prospects each member is pursuing. Sales funnel up in the top right, same thing we saw on the last screen, only in this case it has to do with our outside sales. And then on the bottom right, this is a tool that helps us with scheduling, with making sure that our opportunities are scheduled. So I think doing opportunity management well means that every one of your opportunities has something scheduled in the future. So whether that's a call to the client or an email, or, if it's an in-person meeting or some way of moving the ball down the field, you have to make sure that there's something scheduled. And so in ConnectWise Manage, that looks like activities scheduled on opportunities. And this gauge will show which opportunities don't have anything scheduled, or whether the most recent scheduled thing is in the past. There should always be something scheduled in the future. And if it's not, it will show up here with a big red 0. And then we can click on it here and correct that. So obviously when this screenshot was taken, we've got some scheduling to do. Um, so yeah, that's the outside sales dashboard. Any questions here, Ashley?
Nope, I got them all here.
Awesome. Okay, just a note while I'm thinking about it and while I'm looking at it, you can see up here on the right, we have filters put on these dashboards. So I mentioned we have a couple different services in consulting that we do, and we can manage those opportunities using the same dashboard, and we can filter things out, and it applies to the whole dashboard. So that helps us to use the same view for our different sales teams. Maybe if some of you out there have different sales teams for different services that you guys offer, you could do something similar where you have a standard dashboard and filter it by whatever field shows you the different teams. All right, so on to goals. So you'll see a couple of our goals list here that we use on our executive leadership team. But first, let me just talk about SMART goals. I'm sure a lot of you out there know have heard of this and maybe familiar with what SMART goals mean, but this is kind of a rule of thumb that when you set goals, you want them to meet these 5 criteria: specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time-based. So specific, you want to make sure that the goals that you set are specific as possible, so that I think really the best thing that comes out of this is everyone on the team should know and understand exactly what goals their teammates are setting, so that everyone agrees on what is being committed. They have to be measurable, so that way when you get to the end of the quarter or month or whatever time frame, you can tell if it's complete or not by way of measuring it. They have to be attainable. So if you are setting ambitious goals, I think ambitious goals have a place, but if you get too ambitious and you're never meeting your goals, it's not really effective goal setting. You want to make sure that your goals that you set are things that can be attained and then celebrated once they're completed. They have to be relevant. So you should be working on what's important for your team or your organization today. If you're setting goals that aren't relevant, you may just find that you're getting good work done, but on the wrong things, which doesn't really help. And finally, time-based, you have to put a time so that your goals don't go on forever. We've probably all been there, where you have a goal and you don't put a time on it, and it's just kind of always hanging out there. So SMART: specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, time-based. And just some general tips here for goal setting in BrightGauge. If you set goals, that are gauge powered, only number gauges can be used with those kinds of goals. We'll see some of those on the screenshots in the next couple slides. There are two different types of goals, so you need to make sure you choose the right one. Process goals are for weekly numbers, and outcome goals are for a longer term outcome. So I think the example that is used pretty commonly here is if you have a process goal, maybe your process goal is to go to the gym 2 days a week. And said a different way, if you have an outcome goal, maybe your outcome goal is by the end of the year, you want to lose 5 pounds. That's the difference between process and outcome. Filter the gauge for the correct time frame. So yeah, it doesn't need to be weekly. The goal lists work on a weekly basis, but we actually have some goals that show numbers on a monthly and quarterly basis too. So make sure that your gauges are built to show the correct time frame. You can track any goal without using a target number. That's good for qualitative type goals like certifications and hiring initiatives. You'll see a lot of our goals that we set on our executive leadership team are qualitative, so they don't have numbers that go along with them. And finally, the purpose setting goals in the first place is to drive accountability and to add some structure to the meetings and performance reviews. And that is I can speak from experience when I say having goals that we can look at makes weekly meetings have a whole lot better context, so you can actually see if you're achieving the things that you set out with your team to achieve. All right, this is our scorecard. We use EOS in our company. So this is our scorecard. Some of the data is blurred out, but a lot of it is visible. So we have at the top our employee engagement score. We want to make sure our employees are satisfied. We have a goal that just makes sure that our ELT to-do list is well managed, so that we're not having things that we committed to hanging out forever. Customer satisfaction. We have numbers that show our phone calls. The next two gauges are phone metrics. So these are manual input gauges, meaning that there's not manual input goals, meaning there's not a gauge behind it. So the owner of those goals has to manually input that number based on one of our other systems that doesn't integrate with BrightGauge. We wish it did, but it doesn't. So then onward, we have utilization for our technical team. We have some numbers about project work, how much billable work we're doing on projects that helps meet our professional services revenue goal. I mentioned we do technical consulting. So the next two gauges down are the amount of revenue we're driving from technical consulting. Then we have PBRs, periodic business reviews, just to make sure that we have touch points with our clients that are happening on a regular basis. And finally, at the bottom is prospective MRR that helps us track what our monthly recurring revenue is from our managed services.
And one question for you, Daniel, how is the employee engagement measured?
Yeah, that's another manual input. So we use Office Vibe for that, and we have to manually input that number. It tells us what the score is, and that's based on surveys where our employees score different pieces of answer questions and score the company, and it comes up with an aggregate, and we shoot for 8.2. Any other questions, Ashley?
No, sir.
Awesome. All right, next is our rocks list. So we are in the process right now of moving over to our Q4 rocks, we use EOS, like I mentioned. So what that entails is that once a year we do an annual planning, usually 2 or 3 day offsite meeting to determine what our strategy is going to be for the year. And then every quarter, we pick quarterly rocks or goals to make sure we're advancing that 1 year plan. Like I mentioned, we just finished Q3 and we're starting our Q4 rocks now. And so all of these goals here are outcome goals because they're all really qualitative. There's no numbers, but these are things that we know we want to achieve that we just don't have a number um, to report on. So like establish our SecOps team. That stands for Security and Operations. It's a team that we that we just stood up. There's not really a number to go along with that, but we know that we met that goal based on the specific measurable outline that we wrote that describes, so that the whole team can look at that goal at the end of the quarter and say, yes, that was completed. Just to go over a few more, we have the next one on documenting Microsoft 365 best practices. We have some around marketing strategies. There's one there about hiring a couple of different staff members. We have the monthly newsletter that also has to do with marketing. So there's a lot of different things that we can represent here. And it's all based on what our executive leadership team discusses and decides at our quarterly pulsing. So I think this is the R relevant in our SMART goals. When we get together once a quarter, we talk about what is important now, and then we assign it to a member, put it on this list, and we can track progress every week.
And one quick question for you. How are you sharing this with the team? So how is it trickling down from the leadership team to all of the individuals?
So we have a quarterly company-wide meeting, our lunch and learns, and we do exactly what we did here. We take a screenshot of the page and we put it on a presentation that's done once a quarter, typically right after our goals are set. So that is happening in 2 weeks from now. And yeah, we just take a screenshot of this, and that allows for either me or the owners of the goals to talk about what they mean and what kind of work they did.
And then the next question here, do you use tickets to track any of these and manage?
Yeah, that's a really good question. Because a lot of the things that we do as a result of these goals, you need to write down a bunch of notes, or you have to create documents and store them somewhere, or these things take time, and we are really big about tracking time at our company. So yeah, we do use tickets that go along with each one of these goals, where we can do that, put time entries on and put notes and put documents, and we can assign, if we need help from another team member, we can use that to assign and schedule meetings. So yeah, definitely we use tickets. And we have a board dedicated to EOS in our manage.
Thanks for that. Great.
Sure thing. All right. And finally, this is the last piece of break gauge that we have to share. So this is one of our reports. We haven't touched on reports yet. So this is called our IT Business Review Report. Kudos to our Director of Managed Services for creating this. But what this does is it is a multi-part report. So there's a whole lot of different things on this report. This is just the first piece of it, the agenda. So the purpose of this report is to give us a platform to run our business reviews on. So if there's a business review that we have, let's say I have a business review scheduled today, I'll come in before the business review and run this report against whatever customer I'm meeting with. And it produces this output. So if you build your reports right, you can run them and it will give you the same standard data for whatever client you choose. And it'll spit out this report. So here's the agenda we like to follow on our business reviews. This is our strategic planning section of the report. So we can manually input here. It's probably good idea to update these things once a quarter or so, depending on how frequently you meet with your customers. But we want to make sure that this slide has the things that are important for our customers to be thinking about and for things that we will need to deploy or have a hand in implementing market trends, things like that. Oh, and before I move on, we have our client portal link down there too. This is a kind of a sanity check on our Microsoft 365 licenses. If there are changes that need to be made, they'll show here just so that we can keep our license counts accurate. We have a number of gauges that show service metrics. I don't think this is filtered by a particular client just because of how high the numbers are, but if this was filtered, you'd be able to see in your company what are the causes of trouble, and these are done by type, subtypes, and items on tickets, so we can see what the topic of the issues are that we're solving and what category they fall under, and how much time it's taking us in the top right, billable hours, and how many tickets over time is what the bottom shows. So you sometimes can see some important trends in that. That's good to show and talk about with clients.
Daniel, can I ask you one more question that's come in about goals?
Sure.
Do you use Agile or Scrum methodology to track goals for the executive team?
No, we don't. I would invite a discussion about ways that we could use that, because I've definitely heard of those, and no, we don't. We may accidentally use some of the kind of concepts, I guess, that I haven't done much research on what exactly it looks like. But to answer your question, no, we don't today.
The next question is on this page, actually. So that 31% on your top trouble causes, do you happen to know what that is? Meaning, what's your biggest trouble top on your ticket?
Well, I think that, I mean, this gauge probably is uh, is showing that those are probably blanks. And this isn't filtered by a particular client, so I'm not exactly sure what that 31% would be. Um, I can say though that issues with remote access are probably one of the top um, issues in our work that we do. But I don't know exactly what the 31% on this gauge is. So I think remote access, if I had to take a guess, it'd be remote access is our number one issue.
And then just to mention, Joe, a lot of the things that we kind of blur out might point to something that's specific in their environment or sharing personal details. So the blurring was totally on us at Bright Gauge. So I know it's a little odd to see one of the types blurred, but I'm sure there was a reason.
Yeah, I'm actually a little interested in myself what that is, but yeah. So are we good to move on, Ashley?
We are.
Awesome. All right, we're still on the business review report. So this is the feedback from users. This obviously uses our smile back, and obviously really important if there are problems, especially if there are problems with service, and it's good for our primary contacts to see how, if their users are pleased with us, we want them to see that too. That's what this shows, and it can show it over time, like you see. Then we have our server health, which shows on this view, we have antivirus and patches. And then down below, we have disk utilization. And this is really useful for being able, we believe in transparency, so we want to show our clients the truth behind what their environment looks like. And if there is action to be taken, then we can say at a business review, I see you have a server that's missing some patches here. Let's get that scheduled as soon as we can, because it probably will need some manual intervention. Same kind of concept here, workstation health, antivirus patches, and disk utilization, just regarding workstations instead of servers.
And one quick question before we move on. Do you provide drill downs to the gauges on any of these for your clients, or do you modify them in any way?
We do. These will, well, not this gauge, not this report, but other reports that we have that are scheduled and send out to our clients have drill downs that can help them see what's behind. So they'd be able to click that and see what server or workstation is missing patches. Moving on, then we have projects, open projects. So this is really useful from a planning standpoint. It can help our clients know what are the things that are going on, or the things that will start to happen in the future. As far as projects, major changes, we always represent major changes by projects. Opportunities show, again, when you talk about a roadmap for a client, it's pretty much always captured inside opportunities, whether that's workstation refreshes or server replacements. Some kind of migration starts as opportunities. And then finally, we like to be in the habit of scheduling our next business review as soon as we're done the one that we're doing, so that we always have something on the books. And this link will allow our clients to schedule business reviews in a few months from now.
And one question about the scheduling, does it turn into a schedule in Manage, or is it on your calendars?
It is on the Outlook calendar. It'll sync over to Manage by the calendar sync, but it doesn't get attached to a ticket or opportunity or anything like that. It's an Outlook appointment.
Okay, thank you.
Sure. This slide we wanted to include we show all of our clients that we have a referral program. And so if they know someone who can use our services, we offer them a bit of a discount. And that does it. I know I'm a little late. I apologize about that, Ashley. But that does it for our breakage stuff. So we've been doing some Q&A along the way, but I guess if there's any questions now, I could take them.
Yes, and not late at all. We tried to answer a lot of the questions as we went, which I think was very helpful to everyone. If I did miss any of your questions, or you have any lingering questions, we'll hang out for another minute or so. Otherwise, you can always follow up with us in email. Again, that's success@brightgauge.com. Happy to work with you on recreating templates or kind of diving into any of the elements we talked about here today.
We'll give it just a minute.
Sure.
So not so much of a question, but Jake would like to say, amazing job. Thank you so much for sharing. I'm new to project management role. Are there any gauges that you would suggest for tech teams working with projects?
Well, I think I would say the dashboard of the month that you shared at the beginning, Ashley, would be probably useful for you, Jake. So I'm sure there's tons of versions of different things that people have built, but pretty much I think what's important for us in measuring projects is I think it starts with the budget. So if you're scoping your projects properly, you should know how much time they're going to take, and then you fill that into the budget. And then you track the amount of hours that have been put against the project, and you can see as it's approaching the budget or if it goes over budget or way under budget. I think that's where I would start. Hours worked on projects. We have project managers. If you have project managers or kind of one person in front of each project, it can be a really good way of showing, um, kind of getting a feather in the hat for when you can pull off a project way under budget. But I would point you to that dashboard of the month from the beginning of the presentation.
I would as well, Jake. You can definitely reach out to me and I can help you get that going. The next question here, you mentioned EOS and rocks. Are there any books that you would recommend?
Ooh, well, there's the traction book. I can't remember the name of the author. That describes what all the pieces of EOS, how to practice it and how to implement it in your team. I'm looking on my shelf and I don't think I see it. But it's called, yeah, that's it. Yep. Gino Wickman.
Awesome. And then we're just getting a lot of this was excellent and thank you so much. Really helpful for sharing. Susan says goal setting has been on her radar, so she really appreciates you taking her through your approach. Super valuable, lots of fun stuff like that.
Yeah, great. And I just, by the way, if you want to connect me with anyone that has more in-depth questions, I'm always happy to answer stuff offline too.
Yes, absolutely. And then final one, and I think I'll help you with this, Mo, just kind of talking about how you can put together a business review. If you want to reach out to me, we can work on that. Success@brightgauge.com, and we'll set up some time to discuss your environment specifically. So I think that's it for now. Thank you again so much, Daniel. This has been really great. Thank you everyone for listening and all of the great questions here. And Mendy, yes, I will put you in touch with the presenter. So I'll reach out to you in just a little bit. So again, thank you everyone and have an awesome rest of day.
Thanks, Ashley, and thanks everyone for being here.
Bye, guys.